I don't know if you've been under a rock or out of your house lately, but there's been some crazy shit out there, particularly with game shows. We're not just talking about. We're not going to do the history of game shows. This basically Give Me a Break. Someone talks about puzzle. That basically talks about the cheaters in game shows who just simply cheat and get away with it. Thanks to Looper.com, and WatchMojo.com, we're looking at some of the worst game show cheaters ever since 21. There was even a documentary talking about this. So let's start off with Michael Larson from Press Your Luck, or the other game show, Whammy. The basis of CBS's 1980s game show Press Your Luck was a giant lineup game where filling in squares with money amounts, prizes, and animated cartoon demo called the Whammy. Each contestant would earn spins around the board. Press a plunger, and wherever the spin stopped, that was the prize. Or a whammy. They lost everything, including the turn. In 1984, an ice cream truck driver named Michael Larson appeared on the show and had an amazing string of good luck. After getting away with his first spin and having to wait enough for two other contestants' turns, Larson just kept amassing money and prizes. He never hit a whammy. By the end of the episode, he won $110,237. His time to over so long, CBS had to split the block broadcast in two separate episodes. But he wasn't lucky. He studied. In the months before his appearance, he pored over videotape episodes of the show until he memorized the patterns of the game board, knowing exactly when to hit stop and avoid a win. Basically, he just got away with it. Next up is Charles Ingram. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Really wants you to win. It's good TV after all to see a regular Joe get rich. They provided lifelines for just ask the audience and phone a friend, but that wasn't enough for Charles Ingram, who appeared in the British edition of the show in 2001. He stationed his wife Diana, who had once been a contestant in the show herself, and a friend, frequently windwalking the audience. Then, as he carefully read off each of the four multiple choice answers out loud, he listened for a small cough. That was a signal from Miss Plant, as to which answer he suggested was the correct one. With this ridiculous method, pioneered by cheating high school students, Ingram won $1 million grand prize. The scheme was ultimately discovered, and all three were found guilty of forming the execution of valid security by deception. In other words, fraud. Why would this happen? Because remember this one. She was on the show before, but he was the victim. So when you're on a game show like this, you gotta sit there and shut up. Sit in the audience and shut up. Simple as that. No coughs, no noises. Just sit there, sit down in a chair, and shut up. That's all you gotta do. No, you just want to hey, like that. Things like that can get you cheated and in jail for fraud. That's the other type of fraud that I haven't discussed in my last segment when we talked about frauds and scams. So you see someone with game show fraud, you just basically gotta not step in on to do their work. Next is Adriana Emina. In 2004, there was a cheesecake model named Adriana Benina. She appeared on Pasapalapana, which was the Spanish version of Password. In the main Neptune segment, she was tasked with listening to a series of song clips and identifying the name and the performer. She got all of them correct until she lost her contestants' notice that she kept looking at her phone. It turns out she used Shazam. That's basically comes to mind. You use your phone to cheat. You think you're smarter than your phone, but that is basically not it. That's one way to get cheaters. She used a Shazam app to identify the music. She called out on it. Most hosts and contestants just laughed it off. But did she win? I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. We go back to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, or an Australian show called Millionaire Hot Seat. Khaled El Katanini. In 2014, he appeared on Millionaire Hot Seat. He racked up wins of $100,000. After the show ended, he told the media he cheated. He sort of cheated. How did he cheat? Well, listen to this. He claimed to nail correct answers to the questions of not knowledge by watching the body language of what scientists call micro-expressions. The host Manny McGuire, as he read out the multiple choice possibilities. McGuire's eye man just barely fluttered the correct answer, for example. He also watched the studio audience behind McGuire to see which choice their faces light up. In the end, he had to keep some money. What he did was technically once against the rules. So basically, he just got away with it. Next, we're gonna go to The Price is Right. Terry Guinness. Terry K. That's what I should say. I'll tell you something. The Price is Right is a good show where you can just bid, play pricing games, and then win prizes. Terry Guinness placed a bid of $23,743 during the Showcase Showdown. Well, how did he do it? Listen to find out. Guinness claimed to be an expert blackjack player and card counter familiar with pattern recognition techniques, which he included watching The Price is Right every day for a year, memorizing the prices all you have to frequently use. The Showcase Showdown segment, another theory in the audience was during taping was Ted Sullivan, a regular price attendee who remember the Showcase Showdown prices. After producers checked Guinness' on with smartphones and cheating tools, you got to keep his winnings. That is the same thing with the Australian with Millionaire Hot Seat. So two of those guys got to keep their winnings, but did they go to jail? No. They basically got to keep their winnings. Jack Barry, Dan Henway, Herb Stample, and Charles Van Doren. I heard about this when I was reading a story in school. Who never heard of the game show 21 back in the 1950s? It was in a movie. I haven't even watched the movie to find out, but most game show contestants are going at it alone. Not so in the scandal surrounding the game show 21 in 1956. The show's producers were rigging the game. It was so different from the pilot episode, the score of 0. So what happened was the sponsor threatened to pull out the changes were made, so the producers Jack Barry and Henry decided to rig the show to make good television. The pasty of New York, Patsy, New York Postal named Clark named Herb Stample, who had given answers before I had coached how to deliver them. The producers let him keep winning until ratings started to slip. 6 weeks to drum up interest. A new contestant was brought in, Charles Van Doren, English professor at Columbia University. He was coached, not like PE coaches, but he was coached by producers. Let's see, where was I? And after some stage episodes that had ties, he eventually overtook Stemple. 15 million people watched the episode. The highest audience ever for a game show at that point. The news of this broke in 1957. And left congressional hearings. Congress passed laws to prohibit, which means not allowed. So it was not allowed, so rigging game shows wasn't allowed. but it didn't matter. And that was so stupid that they canceled all the primetime game show networks and scandal was dramatized years later in 1994 in the 1994 movie Quiz Show. Now, most of you who've seen the movie watched all the game shows and studied techniques. Didn't you ever watch something from the Quiz Show movie? Well, basically not. Basically, they don't learn. They just cheat whatever they want to. In our next segment, we're going to talk about puzzle fails from Wheel of Fortune, the most popular game show ever, which is his brother, which is her brother, Jeopardy. So stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to look at some Wheel of Fortune fails, which are puzzles. Stay right here. Now, we all laughed at some hilarious shit. From comedies to comedy movies, comedy shows, etc. How would you like to laugh at some Wheel of Fortune fails? Well, thanks to Fox News, August of last year, Fox News did an article about some Wheel of Fortune fails, the top 8. So, number 1, geography lesson. David Carroll lucky winners of the vacation events during a Wednesday night surprise puzzle. Well, but David let it down when one here was not going to France. Here's the transcript. Let's check geography knowledge. What country do you think we're sending you to? Paris. France. If we had it. If you want to watch the video, you got to watch the video to find out. Magic. During one easy bonus round, we've seen the wheel is contestant went through the entire alphabet and still managed to miss one of the letters. So he was all like, it was magic, but he was like, magic Jan, magic hand, magic something that reminds him of and. So we got band, canned, dand, fan, hand, jan, can, land, land, hand, rand, sand, tanned, band, until wand was actually in the puzzle. Many bonus round, there are many people who will go to the bonus round. They're easy puzzles. Some of them are hard to solve because they normally don't know what the puzzle's in. They just like guess some letters that are not in the puzzle that make it difficult to solve. The easiest way to do that is just to guess the letter that's in the puzzle. Four strikes, you're out. Actually, expensive difficulties, but still, we're still talking about the puzzle fails. WatchMojo.com some hours ago did a top 10 about the Wheel of Fortune puzzle fails. You got me saying, give me a break to those stupid people who don't know how to solve the fucking puzzle. So, cell phone charger. It was actually, the actual puzzle was cell phone charger. The cat goes around the house, and he didn't notice there was a cell phone charger. But there was no T, because charger is like, I don't know what it is, but chargers with a G. Before you go on a little fortune, though, you need to learn how to spell. So around the house with cell phone charger, that was number 10. Start in the right way was number 9. Which was actually stars in the night sky. Like I say, if you're gonna be a little fortune, you gotta know how to spell the words. A group of pill pushers was back in 1999, which is also a group of well-wishers. Exclusive nightclub with a K, which actually the letter X, which was called Exclusive Nightclub. Surf Clay, here we go. I'm not gonna go on number 6. Regis Philbin and Kelly Ripa. Like, really? You can't pronounce the names. It's actually Regis Philbin and Kelly Ripa. The I in it. I bet they were watching the show and then, like how many times does go on fortune and call yourself stupid? Like, what if they smoked pot before the show? That's like really insanity right there. Spider-Woman, which was a fictional character, was the category, and this guy said Superman and Spider-Woman. You can't mix up Marvel and DC. Spider-Woman wasn't even in the Marvel, wasn't even in the DC comics. She was actually in the Marvel comics. So actually it was Superman and Wonder Woman. That is how you can know when you solve the puzzle. Take this guy from back in 2012. He landed on $1 million wedge, got $1 million. The category, I think the puzzle was mythological hero Achilles, which the H was silent. It's actually mythological hero Achilles. The CH was silent. You can't even pronounce. You get use them. Like I said, if you're going to be on Wheel of Fortune, you got to know how to spell the words, and you got to know how to pronounce the words. So if you're all like Southern, like this woman right here, this woman said with the IN with no G. If you're Southern, you can say IN with an apostrophe. But you're kind of missing the G. Now going back to Regis Philbin and Kelly Ripa, the Army officials were on the show, and one of the drill instructors watched them. Here's what they would have been like. Regis Philbin and Kelly Ripa, right in there. Drop that, give me 25 things in the right near you. Just like that. The drone strikers would have been watching that, and then after the show, yelled straight into their ears, "Why you little drop down and get me 25? Drop down, get me 25! Push up now! Come on!" How about, hold on, hang on right there. Hang on. Surfs up Claiborne. Hang on. I guess technical difficulties here. Still, when you're on Wheel of Fortune, though, you gotta know how to spell and how to pronounce the words. Even if you're Southern, you gotta practice saying words ending in G, like ing. If the category says, "What are you doing?" they gotta have the ing. So you can't be all like, waiting, the in, apostrophe. So if you're a Southern, I'm South Texan. I live in the South. I live in South Texas. So this is basically, you live in Texas, you live in the South. It's basically you're South Texan. But what you gotta say is, you gotta pronounce it with the G. If you forget to do that, you can't win the money. What you're basically trying to do is rip off, trying to, I don't know. I've been on the crazy shit at this show. Let's try to focus more on this attention span here. After a break, we're going to hear about a person who got arrested years ago for playing in the subway station. Now, he was on the news a lot. And that got to my attention because, let me tell you something. I am a professional music. I'm a music player when it comes to stuff like this. We're going to discuss all this and more right after this. Don't go away. This next topic involves guitar playing. I'm one of those kind of guys. Years ago, this guy was arrested for playing his guitar in a subway in New York City. Next to RollingStone.com, this article from years ago talks about this guy named Andrew Keller in the Metropolitan Subway Station, Brooklyn. This was November or 3 years ago. 1050.6C. Look it up. That's what he says to the officer. Here's some of that article. Here's some of what the article says. Last month, a YouTube video showing the arrest of 30-year-old sober musician Andrew Gunn performing in the New York City subway went viral, receiving more than 1 million views within 2 days of posting. A resident of the neighborhood, Brooklyn nightly bus guard at the Rose Metropolitan G train subway station was approached by an NYPD officer at 1:30 on October 18th. Michael Franco was the officer. He on his desk appearance ticket, told him to put his guitar away. And exited the premises so was avoiding the so-called quality life violation. This could be any one number of common nonviolent crimes like panhandling, vandalism. like broken windows. Extra according to Canada outside musicians based on this crime. The transit rule of Cochran was heard in the video talking about the transit rule. Transit rule 1050.6 has become a favorite by New York prosecutors who know their rights because it outlines acceptable behaviors within the transit system. The rule's language initially suggests that any non-transit activity on or around the subway is illegal. Section C outlines the expressions of crucial artistic performance, including the exemption of donations. So they kept on playing. Some guy, someone throws a tip, and then towards the end of it, he gets arrested. So let's look at that rule. So if you're in New York, you can play music, but you can't have a permit. That got me thinking, do other artists out there do this kind of stuff without subways? So if you look at these rules, double check the rules, you know you're not getting arrested. That's nothing about permits. How about being arrested for opening up a lemonade stand? This happened in Texas last year. Last year in Texas. This happens all over the country. Texas cops shut down girls' illegal lemonade stand. Texas sisters are Andrea and Zoe Green wanted to raise about $100 to pick their dads to splash Kingdom of Father as Father's Day to set up a traditional neighborhood lemonade stand. According to ABC affiliate KLTV, about an hour later, after a $25 profit, Overland police showed up and shut the lemonade stand down because the Green Sisters don't have a peddler's permit, which comes with a $150 fee. The lemonade was 50 cents. But really, why is it illegal to open a lemonade stand? I know why, because people don't want about food safety that often. Because let me tell you something, right now, if they're thinking about opening up a lemonade stand, you gotta take a food safety course. If you pass the test, you gotta provide, and what you gotta do is buy a government approved fire extinguisher. You want to do this legally? Well, it's gonna take months. If you're gonna do this legally, then this way, 2011, a group of kids set up a lemonade stand outside Bristol County Club in Montgomery County, Maryland, were fined $500 for not having a vendor's permit. About this is talking about all permits. You have a permit to play music. You have a permit above a stand. It costs money to get permits. You got to spend your whole allowance. You got to spend a ton of cash doing this kind of stuff. You have a permit to do this. You got to have a permit to do that. Here's what happened. Texas law prohibits the sale of any food items that could spoil without proper temperature control, and lemonade is included. permit, a health inspection must complete before a permit is granted. You gotta have a permit. No permit, no lemonade. No lemonade. Come on, lemonade is simply lemon juice, lemons and sugar. That's all it is. You gotta take a food safety test. And trust me, there are like plenty of tests out there that can prove to this. And I'll show you. I'll show you about the food safety course. So if you were to look up, okay, what? You've got to take a food safety test online. CourseFoodSafety.com will require you to take a food employee class, a food employee course, food employee training class. You gotta have a handler card, handler card class, course training, etc. All this stuff. If you want to start, if you want to, let's say, the kitchen. Say I work in a restaurant. You gotta know about food safety. But you gotta pay for it. If you want to take the food handler class, you gotta pay for it. It costs money to do this. So in order to apply at a food store or at a restaurant, you gotta take the food handler safety course, food handler class. And it costs money. You gotta take a food safety course that will require you, if you want a certificate, you got to complete the test. And you will have to pay for it. I don't know how much does it cost to do the test. Like, how much does it cost? It'll cost you about $8 to like do a food safety course, but still, if you can take your whole life just to do the test. If you're going to do the test, you have to know about food safety, about the internal temperature of meat and foods, so that you don't get contaminated or get sick. Plus, in Pennsylvania, it costs like $85. You have to spend a whole bunch of money just to do this stuff. You want a food handler card, it costs like $7, and you have to complete this. You have to complete this stuff before you get the permit. You want to do this legally? It's going to take months. carry a gun? I'll explain that next. Well, really, permits. We're talking about permits here. We discussed permits about playing music, food safety. Now we're going to talk about gun permits. Where, where can you don't have to have a permit in Minnesota. If you live in Minnesota, you can't have a permit. You won't have to have a permit to carry a gun with you. Well, some people use guns to protect themselves from harm. So if you want to buy, if you want to get a gun, go out and get a permit. If you live in Texas, it says no permit is necessary for the purchase of rifles, shotguns, ammunition, and firearms in the state. The only qualification for permanent is to purchase firearms instead of Texas gun laws. You have to be 18 years old. If you're over 18, then you can buy a gun. Which is secondary. You have the right to bear arms. Everybody in the whole world has the right to bear arms. But how do you want to buy a? You gotta have. You need to buy a government license dealer. 5 ways to working out. These are tips for you. Number 1, you gotta find a dealer with the federal firearms license, FFL. If you don't have it, you can't get a gun. Number 2, visit the dealer to find your firearm. This includes pawn shops and registered gun shops. So if you go to a pawn shop and find a gun, you're gonna need the FFL. Number 3, be prepared to show your identification. If you have a 121 ID, that's fine. That's good. No, wait, that's good. If you have a 121 ID, that's good. That's fine. If you have ID to show, that's good. If you have a license to carry a handgun or LCH, you can show that. You will not need to conduct a background check. But still, you gotta go through background checks and all that kind of stuff. And you have to complete the required paperwork. No paperwork, no gun. You need to provide proof of identification, answer questions, and the firearm, or about the firearm. You gotta wait. Number 5, wait for the dealer to complete the background check. They have something called the NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. They will check your identification from federal database and perhaps a state database. You don't have to complete. If you don't commit a crime, then you'll have to carry a gun. Number 6, purchase. So still, if you want to buy a gun, you gotta have a license to carry a gun. No, if you don't have a license, you can't carry a gun. That's the way it is in America. If you want to buy a gun to protect yourself, you're gonna need to buy yourself a permit or get a license. How about buying guns on Facebook? That's from trash to treasure, but still, you want to buy a gun, you're going to need a license. Don't be smuggling guns in the country illegally and then coming back to the USA. You don't want to be smuggling to the airport. How about this? You need one, two, you need 2 kinds of license. license to carry a concealed handgun. You need a concealed handgun license, or CHL. And the LTC, license to carry. You need 2 licenses. If you have 1 out of 2, you can't get the gun. If you have if you have the LTC but not the CHL, you can't do that. You gotta have 2 licenses in order to do this. Satisfy the requirements for eligibility. You have to be 21 years old, 18 special circumstances. If you have an under 21 ID, you might be required to do that. You have to gather documentation you need to apply. You need to have your driver's license or tax identification card, and you have your credit card to pay the required fees. They won't require cash. If you don't have a credit card, they won't take cash. And you will complete the online application at texasapps.texas.gov. Number 5, carry a license with you. You need to carry it in the wallet. Once you have a license to carry a handgun, you can be stopped by a police officer and asked to produce your license. So if you get stopped, don't be afraid. Oh, I'm sorry, officer. You gotta show your license. Seriously though, you really have to show your license. You get pulled over by a cop, you're allowed to show your license. If you get stopped by a cop in the middle of the street, you have to show ID. Like I said before, you have to show ID. If you don't show ID, you could very well go to jail. That's it for thank you for partaking your time for me to talk to you about permits, game show cheaters, permits and game show cheaters. For more of this and other segments, go to the Give Me a Break playlist, which I will make after this video airs. Hey, remember, no hate, no love, and give the cops a thumbs up. I'll see you next time on Give Me a Break.